Hey guys, Jordan here. I've got a bit of a quicker video for you today. I've been sent a couple of NVMe drives from Bywin. If you haven't heard of them before, they're the OEM that makes drives for big brands like Acer Predator. We've recently featured that on the channel. A bunch of pre-builts, and they've only recently started doing their own drives. So today we're going to be taking a look at some of their options and telling you about their Black Friday offers. Now they've kindly sent over two models, the NV7400, which is a Gen 4 drive up to 7,450 megabytes read and a maximum write of 6,500 megabytes, available in 1, 2 and 4 terabyte models. It uses 3D TLC NAND and supports things like HMB caching and SRAM, which means it can use a little bit of system memory just to help with small files, just to keep the transfers moving smoothly. The drive is single-sided and comes with a thin graphene pad. That does a decent job of helping the motherboard heatsink keep the temperature steady, but obviously your airflow and heatsink design are going to be the main factors to keeping your temperatures down low. On the reliability side, it has LDPC error correction, TRIM, garbage correction and the usual 5-year warranty. Then we've got the X570, which is a Gen 5 drive for speeds up to 14,000 megabytes per second and a write speeds up to 13,000. And again, this is available in 1, 2 and 4 terabyte models. The model I have here is a DRAM-less design, which still uses 3D TLC NAND and leans on HMB and a decent SLC cache. So for normal day-to-day stuff, it behaves a lot like the higher priced Gen 5 drives with onboard RAM, and it is worth noting that they also offer a version with DRAM if you need that. Now, because it is Gen 5, heat's going to be the main thing to keep an eye on, but this again has got a graphene pad and also a thermal control algorithm, but you will want to use a proper motherboard heatsink or even a dedicated NVMe cooler if you're planning to hit the drive often, for example if you're going to be using it for editing. At the time of filming, the NV7400 2TB drive is £115 and the X570 2TB is going to be available on a Black Friday offer for £144.49, which is a pretty solid price for a Gen 5 drive. And I've also got a deal for you guys in the US as well on the NV7400 1TB. That's going to be dropping from $74.99 down to $69.99. Nice. Now, I was originally going to cover these drives in a full PC build, but honestly, right now with the pricing and memory, you can pay as much for RAM as you do a graphics card, which is ridiculous. So that build will be on hold until things settle down a bit, but for now we're going to test the drives individually. So for the test bench, we're going to use the system that we recently covered with the Intel 285K, so that's the Intel Core Ultra 9. Then we've got the Z890 Hero Corsair Vengeance 8400 megatransfers per second CUDA memory, the Asus TUF 4090, all powered by Corsair HX1500i. I also have moved the boot drive lower down into a Gen 4 slot, and then tested the drives out in the top Gen 5 so they can run at full speed. Now in terms of testing, we're going to be using Crystal Disk Mark for the raw read and write speeds, Blackmagic disk speed test to see if they're good for scratch editing, and we'll also do some temperature monitoring as well, because Gen 5 can get rather hot depending on the certain tasks you're giving it. Now unfortunately I won't be able to tell you too much about the long-term performance of these drives because I'm constantly testing new stuff, but Bywin build their business around supplying OEMs, so reliability is kind of their whole thing, plus you've got a 5-year warranty on the drives anyway. So starting with the NV7400, the Gen 4 drive, and Crystal Disk Mark, we hit around 7,046 megabytes read and just under 4,300 megabytes write, which is pretty much bang on for what you'd want from a high-end Gen 4 NVMe. Blackmagic sat a little bit lower, around 5,300 megabytes read and write, but that's normal. Blackmagic tend to show real-world sustained speeds rather than just peak burst. Maximum temperature under load on this drive was 47 degrees, and that was with a 18.5 degree ambient temperature, so around a 28 degree delta. So stupidly cool for an NVMe running hard. No throttling, no instability, just a clean, steady run. This could be a really good drive if you're going to build a gaming PC, maybe a PlayStation 5 upgrade for example, and you want fast load times without paying Gen 5 prices. This is certainly one that makes good sense. Now stepping up to the X570, the Gen 5 drive, that was a different beast. Crystal Disk Mark gave us around 12,339 megabyte read and 10,024 write. Blackmagic came in at 9,100 and 8395 write. Not quite the up to 14,500 megabytes on the box, but the key phrase is up to. Real world conditions are never going to be brochure perfect, especially without BIOS tuning, firmware flashing, heat sinks, or even a chilled test bench. Even at 12 gigabytes per second, this thing is ridiculously fast, and realistically you're never going to saturate that in gaming. This drive is going to be great though for anyone that wants to do some 4K, 8K editing, large project work, scratch disks, scratch caching, heavy data transfers. And for a Gen 5 drive, we usually expect these things to be monstrously hot, but we reached a peak of 57 degrees. That's without removing the ambient as well, so still a very cool drive, especially for Gen 5 speeds. So some pretty decent little options here. The 2TB NVMe 115 and the X570 at 144.49. Pretty competitive for a Gen 5 model. And of course the 1TB NV7400 on Amazon.com at £69, which isn't a bad deal at all. Now also a quick little reminder while we're in the Black Friday season, always double check prices before you buy anything. Amazon in particular, they have a habit of bumping prices up just to drop them back down to the normal price, which, yeah, really not a fan of that, just to make them look like deals when they're really not. I'm not going to tell you about something that's on sale when it isn't, so make sure you use something like Camel is a good one, or a price tracker, just to make sure you're actually getting a decent discount, because it can be a little bit deceptive when it comes to things that are on sale. Now we'll put the pricing and availability for these drives down below. If Bywin send out any other models, we'll cover those as well as we go. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please get subscribed and ding the bell if you did. Big thank you to Bywin for sending out the drives for me to cover, and I'll see you all in the next one.